In the aftermath of World War II, Europe faced a monumental task. The war had left cities in ruins, economies shattered, and millions suffering the consequences of conflict. As people started to rebuild their lives, an unexpected find began to surface: a collection of artifacts and documents from the Nazi regime. These items were discovered in various locations across Europe, from abandoned warehouses to hidden basements. Some were secreted away by individuals who had worked within the Nazi regime or had connections to it. Among this collection were hidden papers that held crucial insights into Adolf Hitler's strategies and conflicting thoughts during the war. Historians and researchers soon became interested in these documents, eager to understand more about Hitler's mindset and decision-making. The papers revealed not only military strategies, but also Hitler's personal reflections on key events, such as the Battle of Stalingrad and the D-Day invasion. For example, one document showed Hitler's obsession with winning the war at all costs, even if it meant sacrificing entire divisions of soldiers. He often dismissed advice from his generals and insisted on pursuing strategies that many deemed reckless. These insights helped to paint a clearer picture of how his arrogance and delusions of grandeur contributed to Germany's downfall. Additionally, the documents shed light on the internal dynamics of the Nazi leadership. They showed how tension and rivalry among high-ranking officials were widespread. This division often led to disastrous decisions, as different factions vied for Hitler's favor, sometimes prioritizing personal ambition over the nation's needs. As researchers combed through these papers, they began to draw connections between Hitler's thoughts and the broader context of his regime's actions. The classified documents provided evidence of a leader who was deeply troubled, fearful of defeat, but also trapped in his ideology. His increasingly erratic decisions, often based more on personal beliefs than military intelligence, ultimately set Germany on a path toward destruction. The revelation of these artifacts highlighted the importance of understanding history through various perspectives. As Europe moved toward recovery and a new chapter of history, these documents served as a reminder of the consequences of unchecked power and the vital lessons to be learned from the past. While digging through old files in a little-known archive in Germany, Dr. Emily Lang, a young historian, made an unexpected discovery. It all started on a rainy Tuesday morning. She had been looking for information on the everyday life of soldiers during World War II when her eyes landed on a dusty box tucked away in a corner. The label was faded, but Emily felt a tug of curiosity. As she opened the box, she found a collection of unclassified documents, an unexpected treasure for anyone studying the war. Carefully, she sifted through the papers. They were filled with letters exchanged between Adolf Hitler and his closest advisors. Emily's heart raced. She knew she had stumbled onto something significant. The letters detailed military tactics and ideologies that were crucial during the war. In one letter, Hitler expressed his thoughts on the importance of blitzkrieg tactics, emphasizing the need for speed and surprise in warfare. His advisors, some eager to please him, would often agree with his ideas, even when they had doubts. Emily noticed how the tone of the letters ranged from confident and authoritative to anxious and uncertain, reflecting the shifting tides of war. One particularly striking letter revealed a heated debate between Hitler and General Erich von Manstein. They discussed the failed offensive at Stalingrad, and it was clear that tensions were mounting. Hitler insisted on fighting to the last man, while von Manstein suggested a more strategic withdrawal. Emily could almost feel the weight of the moment as she read their words. It was a clash of ideology and desperation. As she dug deeper, Emily could see how these letters painted a troubling picture. They showcased not only military decisions, but also the mindset of leaders who were often out of touch with reality. Some passages revealed a disturbing level of arrogance and denial about the war's progress, even as the Allies gained ground. Emily took careful notes, knowing that these documents would be crucial for her research. They offered a unique window into the psyche of one of history's most infamous leaders and his circle of advisors. Each letter added layers to the complex narrative of the war and illustrated how incredibly flawed the decision-making processes were within the Nazi regime. After hours of reading and reflecting, Emily leaned back in her chair, realizing how this find could change her understanding of the war. The letters were not just historical artifacts. They were pieces of a puzzle that showed the human side of leaders caught in a catastrophic conflict. With a renewed sense of purpose, she began to craft her next steps, excited to share her findings with the world. As Dr. Emily Lang continued to read through the letters, she found that they contained candid reflections on Adolf Hitler's fears and aspirations. Each letter painted a vivid picture of his mental state during the war. It was rare to find such personal thoughts from a leader whose public persona was often so rigid and domineering. In one letter, Hitler expressed concern about the growing strength of the Allied forces. His words revealed a deep-rooted fear that began to gnaw at him. Despite his bravado, he recognized that the tide was changing. Emily noted how he oscillated between confidence and despair, sometimes declaring victory was just around the corner, while other times sounding almost hopeless about Germany's fate. The letters also contained insights into how Hitler viewed his relationship with his commanders. There were moments where he openly criticized their decisions, showing little empathy for the struggles they faced on the front lines. Yet, he also relied heavily on certain generals, sometimes to the point of obsession, expecting them to deliver results that were increasingly difficult to achieve. This back and forth illustrated the complicated dynamics within the Nazi leadership. Emily found it striking how these reflections connected to pivotal moments in history. For instance, a letter written just before the D-Day invasion revealed his doubts about the strength of his forces in France. He appeared to underestimate the Allies, believing that they would not risk an all-out assault. This misplaced confidence proved disastrous and highlighted a significant flaw: his inability to listen to advice or recognize the changing battlefield conditions. Each letter opened a door into the past, allowing Emily to see not just the decisions made, but the man behind them. Hitler's dreams of global domination clashed painfully with the realities on the ground. The weight of the war was evident in his thoughts, and Emily wondered how different things might have been if he had faced his fears more honestly. With every page, she felt the urgency of her research. These letters were more than just words. They were the turbulent thoughts of a man who shaped the course of history. As Emily carefully transcribed key passages, she realized how important it was to present these insights in her work. They demonstrated the humanity, flaws, and struggles of a leader at the helm of one of the darkest times in history. In the quiet of the archive, surrounded by the remnants of the past, Emily felt a growing responsibility to share these revelations. The letters were a crucial piece of the puzzle, ensuring that the lessons learned from that era would not be forgot. Dr. Lang's attention was particularly captured by a letter dated in late 1943. As she read through its contents, a sense of intrigue washed over her. The letter hinted at a secret plan to develop a new superweapon, something that could potentially shift the balance of power in the war. Although the details were vague and somewhat cryptic, it was clear that Hitler had high hopes pinned on this project. In the letter, Hitler expressed his belief that this weapon would be a game-changer for the Axis powers. He seemed excited, almost like a child revealing a secret idea. The way he wrote suggested that he thought this new technology could turn the tide of the conflict back in favor of Germany. The notion that such a weapon might allow them to regain lost ground filled him with a sense of urgency and hope. Emily noted how the letter revealed more than just military ambition. It also reflected Hitler's desperation. The war was not going well for Germany at that point, and this potential new weapon was wrapped up in his dreams of resurgence. She imagined how the weight of defeat felt heavy on a leader whose visions of victory were fading. As she reread the passages, Emily realized that the letter lacked specific details about the weapon itself. However, it hinted at advanced technology, something that could cause great devastation. The suggestion of a superweapon was a reminder of the lengths to which Hitler was willing to go, pursuing increasingly desperate measures as the situation worsened for his forces. Curious about what this weapon could have entailed, Emily began to think about the implications. If the Nazis had indeed been working on such a project, it might have drawn away valuable resources and manpower from other fronts. She could only wonder how close they might have come to realizing this ambition and what impact it could have had on the war. With her heart racing, she jotted down notes and questions that this letter raised for her research. The discovery wasn't just about historical facts. It revealed a deeper understanding of how fear, ambition, and complexity intertwined at the highest levels of leadership during one of the darkest periods in history. Dr. Lang felt a sense of purpose and responsibility to sift through these insights and bring them to light, understanding how this hidden ambition reflected not just a strategic maneuver, but also the inner turmoil of a dictator faced with unprecedented challenges. Realizing the monumental significance of her findings, Dr. Emily Lang made the decision to publish her research. She understood that the letters she had unearthed could change the way historians viewed World War II. After months of meticulous work, she compiled her notes and crafted a detailed paper, connecting the dots between Hitler's thoughts, military strategies, and the broad impact they had on the war. When her paper was finally published, it sparked immediate interest in the academic community. Scholars and history enthusiasts alike were drawn to her revelations about the secret superweapon plan and the candid reflections on Hitler's mindset. The discussions that followed were intense, with many debating the implications of the findings. Some argued that these insights added depth to existing narratives, while others questioned whether they altered the common understanding of Nazi strategies. As the discussions spread, various forums and history conferences became platforms for examining Dr. Lang's work. There were heated debates about how these new documents illustrated the failures and delusions of Hitler and his commanders. Some historians suggested that her research painted a clearer picture of the desperation that drove the Nazi leadership as the war turned against them. Emily found herself invited to speak at numerous events, where she shared not just her findings, but also the process of discovery. Her passion for her work resonated with many. The human side of her research, the fears, aspirations, and flaws laid bare in the letters, struck a chord with audiences. They were eager to understand the mindset of leaders whose actions had catastrophic consequences for millions. The letters also led to fresh discussions about how the legacy of the war is interpreted. Some scholars began to consider the impact of technology and weaponry on warfare more seriously, examining how innovations influence the conflict from both sides. Emily was encouraged by this dialogue, feeling that her research was contributing to a more nuanced understanding of history. As the debates continued, Emily realized the impact of her work extended beyond just academic circles. Her research had made its way into documentaries and articles aimed at the general public, bringing more awareness to the complexities of World War II. People were beginning to see not only the broader narrative, but also the intricate details that shaped it. With each discussion and every new perspective, Emily felt a sense of fulfillment. She had managed to shine a light on an area of history that needed further exploration, and in doing so, she hoped to ensure that the lessons learned from the past would not be ignored. Her journey as a historian had just begun, but she was ready to continue uncovering truths that could help shape our understanding of the challenges we face today. As Dr. Emily Lang's work gained traction, it sparked a wave of analysis and debate. Critics and supporters alike delved into the implications of Hitler's correspondence. Some historians argued that her findings reshaped the understanding of decision-making processes within the Nazi regime. They pointed out how the letters showed a clearer picture of the chaotic power dynamics and the pressures that influenced Hitler's choices. Supporters highlighted how the insights into Hitler's fears and ambitions painted him not just as a ruthless dictator, but also as a flawed human being grappling with the realities of war. They believed this perspective was essential for understanding the complexity of his leadership and the decisions that led to catastrophic outcomes for millions. On the other hand, some critics dismissed her work as being overly focused on Hitler's psychological state. They argued that such an emphasis could detract from broader operational and strategic discussions regarding the Nazi regime. They believed that concentrating on the personal thoughts of leaders might obscure the many other factors at play during the conflict. Despite the mixed reactions, Dr. Lang's discovery gradually became a cornerstone for historians studying the psychological aspects of Hitler's leadership. Many began to incorporate her findings into their research, realizing that understanding a leader's mindset was crucial to comprehending the decisions made during the war. Seminars and workshops began to explore the intersection of psychology and history, with Dr. Lang often invited to speak about her research and findings. As she listened to others discuss her work, Emily felt a sense of accomplishment. Her research had opened doors to new conversations and perspectives that had been overlooked in previous studies. The historical narrative was evolving, influenced by her work in ways she had only hoped for. In time, her findings found their way into textbooks and academic articles, influencing how future generations would learn about World War II. Emily realized that her journey was not just about uncovering documents, but also about sharing insights that could teach people valuable lessons about leadership and accountability. Through the debates and discussions, one thing became clear: Dr. Lang's discovery had made an impact. It highlighted the importance of understanding the human element behind historical events and the decisions that shape our world. The conversations sparked by her work brought history to life, reminding everyone that behind every decision, there was a complex interplay of ideas, fears, and ambitions.